Hi, Nisha. How are you?
I'm good, Shavi. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for joining the YouTube channel HR School of Avi Romano. You're going to be introducing yourself in a second. I'll just say that you took my eyes when I saw that you authored like books in India, and I was looking for someone to understand the Indian culture. And we also had like several interactions on our professional areas as HR professionals. And we're going to be talking about India, the rising force of India in tech, which is transforming hugely. And I think it's a I'm super curious. I think it's a very, very interesting area to deep dive into. But first of all, let's introduce you and then we can start.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Avi, for bringing up the topic about India and definitely its rising star. So, talking about myself, of course, you introduced about an HR professional into being into this industry for close to 14 years plus. And I come with expertise in various domains like retail, IT, product organization, and yes, apart from that, some of the passionate things which is apart from HR, which gives me empowering people.
Yeah.
I love to share my knowledge and into mentoring. That has also took me into a form of sharing my knowledge in various platforms like what we are connected today,
Yeah.
one of them, and the other one was definitely my books. The first one was My Journey to Love and Peace, which talks about more about my journey as well as how I had the fixed mindset of I am not enough to I am enough. And it also talks about HR nuggets.
Yeah.
And the second is about the power of connection, which we co-authored with three other friends whom we never met. But it was all to the part of LinkedIn connections. And I think the best example is what we are connected today. It's
Yeah.
all power
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
yeah, that's great. So I'm happy to be here.
I'm thinking out loud now. Maybe we're gonna be writing a book as well in the future, but let's talk about it after that. Okay, so our target audience are mainly gonna be tech leaders, C-level entrepreneurs, founders of companies. They are thinking to themselves, everyone is going India, right? Like everyone is going Bangalore, Chennai, Delhi, opening their like tech hubs. Yet there are a lot of questions that are rising up before you start your first step in this like crazy and amazing experience. And I wanted to ask you, I think the first thing is, what can you tell us about the Indian culture as a culture in general before we deep dive into tech?
Yeah, I think that's really great question. So if I could have just finished in one word answer or
Yeah.
one sentence that India is a land of many. Okay,
Mhm.
but to the audience, right, as the whole purpose of this program, because we need to make sure that some of them are yes understand about Indian culture. They would have visited as part of professional assignment or organization, but some of them would have just heard about it. So to elaborate what Indian culture is all about, so definitely India is a land of many. It has everything, so we talk about the Indian culture. It cannot be defined in just one term. It
Mhm.
is the amalgamation of various district cultures spread across the country from north to south,
Yeah.
east to west, right? Because it has a vast geography, and the Indian culture, it comprises of wide range of diversity. When I talk about diversity in terms of your language, because every state, the 20th states, talk about various language, and within one state itself we have various dialects. So in terms of language, the festivals, the food, the religions, so it's completely diverse and inclusive. So the people of our nation embody the quality of compassion and empathy. So that's what you could precisely say Indian culture is about: compassion and family, or empathy, and especially about this family and community values. These are some of the fundamental values
Yeah.
which we as an Indians, considered it as highly regarded. And also in terms of festival, every family has its own. So various traditions. So I would say that it is more about diverse and inclusive culture
Yeah.
in
So obviously this was like, I don't know, an unfair question because India is a subcontinent, right? Like it's huge. And it became, I think this year or last year, the most populated country in the world with 1.35 billion individuals living there. So obviously it's a very, very, very big, colorful, with a lot of subcultures inside of it. And also, India this year became the fifth biggest economy in the world. Like it's a force to be reckoned. Like it's a very, very interesting area in time in India. And I think the next step for us to understand will be tech in India. So we're talking not about India only as a culture, and this is not a philosophical conversation, right? We're both coming from tech, we're working for tech companies. And I think that the first thing that, or the first question that leaders or investors will ask themselves will be, what should we know about tech in India? And I think in this area, it's going to be a bit more focused than the first question, right? Like this, I know that we have like great universities in India. I know that, English is very, very common. And I know that engineering is a very, very well respected profession in India, which gives you a great platform to start your tech hub. But what should we know about tech in India?
Yes, so definitely the way you mentioned about, in the engineering and the startup, so that definitely has been a fundamental for towards when we consider India as a tech hub,
Yeah,
right? The way it has grown from over the decade. But I just wanted to take a journey, to what we say that how India's contribution towards the global economy or tech system has definitely evolved over the decades. So if we take into the consider, last 2 weeks, I mean 2 decades ago, we see that there are basically the three pillars which
mhm,
was holding the complete ecosystem. So in the early 2000s, right, that's where we typically see when it started, right? So the Indian IT services, it actually dominated because of you had the skill, because it was the focus was more on the quality and the project management skills. So that's, I'm talking about the initial days when just the IT had started. And then last year, as you were mentioning about the startups, right? So that's where we had seen celebrating the technology entrepreneurs, right?
yeah,
Building their products for not only for India, but also for the global market. We see some of the great CEOs in the major organizations, right? MNCs being in India.
yeah,
So that's how the second phase was, or the second pillar. The third pillar, which is very important these days, is about the GCC, which is the Global Capability Center.
hmm,
Okay, so this ecosystem actually started to continue to grow and expand from the last 2 decades, and that has helped to build the other two pillars also with a combination of the talent and expertise. So
hmm,
let me share, a little bit about
yeah,
GCC, right? Because this is something new which is there in India coming up. So GCC, or what we say Global Capability Center, or you would say GIC, Information
yeah,
Technology Center, right? So these are nothing but the offshore units
yeah,
of multinational corporation that operates across the globe. So these centers are responsible for providing various services, whether it is your IT, finance, human resource, or analytics, to the parent organization,
yeah,
right? So earlier, these GCCs were primarily established to for the offshore, for the back end operations, so back office operations. But eventually, as I told you, with every decades we are progressing.
yeah,
So the So GCCs, as of today, they handle more of complex line items according to the the organization's value chain, and now they have become the center of operational excellence. That is a hub for product development and innovation.
Mhm.
And so this is what the GCCs, and let me tell you this. As you said about starting hub, what basically first things people need to know about tech in India. So which I said about was more about the transformation in terms of IT industry. So
Mhm.
when I consider the other aspect of it, that is from the government or as a country.
Yeah.
So over there also it has changed because the IT growth has actually changed from the last 2 decades in perception for the whole world, because India's considered as a storehouse for knowledge and skills and of course the economic growth. So in terms of certain government initiatives, they have set up STP, what we call it as Software Technology Park,
Mhm.
right, where you get, and then you have special economic zones, or which actually helps, providing certain benefits to the organizations, right, who wanted to set up their entity in India.
So an organization that wants to start it hub, there's actually um, a movement like or help coming from the governments called against software S
SEZ,
STZ.
software.
If
Yes,
I
yeah,
go like
special.
on the online looking for that, like there's gonna be like a hub or like a website for me as an investor to get like the first steps there.
Yeah, so special economic zone is where you get certain tax rebates,
Yeah.
right? Certain benefits from the government, which would help you to set up your system, your entity or the organization in India.
Okay.
So these are some of the initiatives by the government itself, which
Backwind coming from the government.
exactly, which is being there. So apart from that, definitely the IT based technologies, which is definitely in India, like remote monitoring and expanding, and you see the new digital economy which is coming out, or in terms of 5G communication, the
Yeah.
growing adoption of artificial intelligence, your big data analytics, and cloud computing. So these are some of the things which the organizations are considering, and that's how the IT companies are establishing their centers. Apart from the major cities which you mentioned, like of course, Bangalore or Hyderabad,
Yeah.
Delhi, you
Yeah.
would also see they are establishing the centers in tier 2 and tier 3 cities,
Mhm.
which will further enhance the growth and,
Yeah.
of course, reduce the existing disparities,
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Yeah.
city,
Yeah.
right?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about culture for a second, okay?
Yeah.
So obviously there is a huge amount of work, external work coming to India, a lot of foreign money coming to India. And I think I imagine that something is changing in the Indian culture based on that change, right? Like there is like the middle class, I guess, have grown in India. A lot of money is coming in. It's very, very similar to Israel because Israel is very young, unlike India, which is one of the most, I think, the one of the most ancient kingdoms in the world, right? Like it's very, very, it's been with us for a long time. Israel is about 70. And once we're starting a tech hub, a lot of investors coming from outside and a lot of external money is being poured into Israel, which is inflicting not only on the tech, but also in the infrastructures and budgets that we have, right? Can you share with me what's going on the Indian cultures based on that change? Like, is there like, I don't know, a new middle class that like grew, or is there something changing in the Indian culture based on that change?
Yes. So, yes, definitely. So, as I was talking about to you on the GCCs, yeah,
Yeah.
Global Capability Centers, right? So now, India is home to more than 1,800 global capability centers,
Wow.
and that means it employs over 1.3 million people.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So when you talk about these numbers, it is nothing but how these centers have played a significant role in India's economic growth, right? Also providing the high quality employment opportunities, all and also contributing to the country's GDP,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So where we were talking about how people have enhanced their standard of living and getting into the better infrastructure and ease
Yeah.
of living.
Yeah.
So, uh, and these GCCs are not limited only to the technology sector, but it is also it's also into diverse fields. Like you talk about your engineering, your consulting, and or pharma. So there are many other sectors which is that is helping the team or the people over here.
Yeah.
So countries, the largest pool of the talent or the skilled professionals, and your cost effectiveness in setting up these global capability centers, and also these supportive government policies, right, which I
Yeah.
have mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
setting up SEZ, or there are setup of software technology
Yeah.
parks wherein you have all the technology companies. So these are some of the things which had really helped, in changing an individual's, the standard of living and
Yeah.
towards the economic opportunities. That also meant because India is definitely a hub of various educational institutions.
Yeah.
Now, uh, the program also, because now the way industries are changing, the way
Yeah.
new technologies are coming in,
Yeah.
right? We were talking about the last conversation. I remember with you, we said that it was expected AI will come by
Yeah.
2025 or
Yeah.
ChatGPT, but
Yeah.
we never realized how it landed up today,
Yeah.
right? And we're all using it. So, how can we enhance the educational institutions also? So, there is a good collaboration between the educational institutions
Yeah.
and these corporates,
Yeah.
coming together, because that's how they're changing the style of education, because it's very important. The future of the country, the future of education.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the fundamental of your education is getting changed. It is also helping people to have the entrepreneurship. So technology entrepreneurship or the startup which we had seen,
Yeah.
that is being a more advanced in technology. So overall, when you have your education, you have your startup, and you have the GCC setting up. So that's how the culture is changing, and we are seeing it over,
Amazing.
at passing wage.
My appetite is there. I want to open a hub in India.
Yeah.
um, let's talk about perception or mindset. Okay. Every culture, once you get to know a bit better, has its own colors, seasoning, atmosphere. What should an entrepreneur, an investor, should expect, not on the technical aspect, not on the pragmatical aspect, on the mindset aspect, while starting working, or once he decided to open a site, a hub in India?
Okay. So when we talk about or think about that initially, the why the companies had started to invest or came to in India, right? That was primarily, we all know, a simple reason:
Yeah.
cost effect,
Yeah.
right? That's
Which
very open.
we should say it's still very, very much like attractive, right? Like the cost in India is very, very effective if we compare it to the West, and this will bring a lot of entrepreneurs to ask themselves, should I do it? Because they can save a lot of money getting a great workforce, very, very high talented English native speakers with great education from universities. And then the question is, why should we ask ourselves, like, let's start, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Right. So we know that it was definitely they had come to in India, or companies came to India for cost, but then they grew their center for talent, and now they are here. basically for the leadership that we have to offer.
Mm-hmm.
So the leadership which is being leading these organizations are definitely commendable. So the Indian government also has been very supportive, as I said, about setting up the GCC, the Global
Yeah.
Capabilities Center, providing the various incentive initiatives, to
Yeah.
attract foreign investment,
Mm-hmm.
setting up SEZ where companies can set up their GCC and also access various tax incentives and other benefits.
Yeah.
Has government has also implemented policies which can promote innovation and research and development. So that is why India, it has helped, to set up or consider India as, cutting edge technologies and service provider. So, in a nutshell, basically, I would say define your goal for what you are here for.
Yeah.
Like if you're setting up a GCC, whether you want it in terms of shared services or you want to be as a innovation hub
Yeah.
or you want to be a research in technologies,
Yeah.
what kind of center you want it to, that is to be very clear in defining your goals. Then of course your second thing comes your paperwork, because we have body like a non-profit organization as NASCOM,
Yeah.
which health, which is for National Association Software for software organization. So that helps you in, it's a non-profit organization. Basically, it helps you becoming a mediator to understand what's required in
Yeah.
India, SEZ, etc. So get your paperwork done. And the third thing is about accessibility. So India being a very diverse country,
Yeah.
right? So you need to be very clear which part of India you want to. Definitely, Bangalore is considered as high
Yeah.
tech,
Yeah.
Hyderabad, by Chennai, Delhi. Apart from that, we also have tier two cities also coming up. So when we talk about tier one, like Bangalore is considered as into technology or Hyderabad,
Yeah.
you go for Mumbai, it's more about financial. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what we call it as the financial capital of India. So you
Okay.
have something in terms of financial industry or financial process. Mumbai is something really great choice.
Yeah.
You have something in terms of automobile, right? Your engineering,
Yeah.
automobile engineering. So that's where your Chennai plays an important role, that city.
Mm-hmm.
And you have in general, right, your pharma and the other PFI, ITS industry, that's where you have Delhi. So these are some of the aspects of cities which you
Yeah.
have. Once you identify what kind of industry you are, what is your goal, that would help you to
Yeah.
be accessible to what city or what you want.
So you have kind of an expertise which is geographical, right? Like you have like an area that is more relevant for tech, for pharma, for finance. So if I'll go like, I don't know, I'm coming from EY or Deloitte or
Yeah.
PwC, I'll go to those areas. If I'm coming from tech or engineering, I'll go like to Bangalore. Okay, that's
So,
logical.
yes, by default, you would definitely have the talent. But when we talk about these specification, is where you get more
Yeah.
specific talent, or that's
People will
how the
migrate to those areas as well, right? Like I know from my side that a lot of individuals will migrate to the area of Bangalore because they know they'll find more work there because there's like it's like Silicon Valley of India, and then
yes,
you have like a higher, but also you'll have like higher competition, which is logical once you have like an area that is specific known for a specific profession. Let's talk about innovation in tech. Each culture is known to has its own point of view on how to innovate, on how to create new ideas, on how to be, colorful, like think out of the box. How does tech is, being worked out in India? What is the process, or how is it done?
uh, okay. So when we talk about innovation, so the basic innovation, it started from the solving your real life problems,
Mm-hmm.
right? The innovation is nothing but you know you are finding it something difficult, or you're finding it a little challenging,
Yeah.
and that's when you try to work on it and you give becomes a product, right?
Yeah.
That's so that's the in a layman's language. But
Yeah.
if we just talk in our corporate language, we say it's about the growth mindset.
Yeah.
uh,
Okay.
so uh, so it's all about in the DNA or in the growth mindset, because India over the period of time, like when I say 2 decades, 3 decades, it's very old history. So we have been, of course, ruled and come out, and there's a lot of changes. Now, how? So one thing was that India had seen being very adaptable, being
Yeah.
very resilient,
Mm-hmm.
right? And with this, it also comes up that if there are any issues or challenges, the service part, right? Customer service is something which is very predominant. You
Yeah.
would find, um, we say that to an extent of in Indian culture. For us, serving as a guest, we say Atiti Devo Bhava, which is basically every guest is
Mm-hmm.
being welcomed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is considered God. So that's something, it comes from the service part.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm talking about it, you would find people are more able to connect to real life problem. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so they work to solve the customer issues or challenge, and that had become towards a growth mindset, or that has led to an innovation. Just an example. So during the COVID time, or
Yeah.
definitely before time, also we had seen India had developed the UPI payments, so digital payments, and that's very common over here. We call it as Google Pay, and there are other digital payments. So how that had come? So that's basically again an innovation which had started. You see a lot of startups come in India being established,
Mm-hmm.
right? That incubation. So India
Yeah.
is known as these days that it's a startup capital.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about the DNA or the growth mindset, which is helping uh, to become what you need to do to solve the real life challenge. Because when you see there is a problem, and when you are able to solve the problem and get to see it,
Yeah.
that becomes your innovation. And that's something in India is becoming a hub, not just for innovation or digital capabilities, but also for digital leadership as well,
Yeah.
because Indian leaders are now helping global portfolios across both business and technical roles as well. So
Amazing.
that's how it is
So it's a
becoming.
combination of real life, like challenges that we have like in real life, but also sometimes it's a dimension of reflection of the specific culture or the population that you have, because you have like your own kind of, challenges that you're like working with. That way you'll find like a creative way on to solve that, right? Amazing.
Absolutely.
Okay. This was super, super, super interesting. I have to say, I wrote myself the GCC, and also I'm going to ask you about the other one. I'm going to read about it. It's super interesting. I have like homework about after this conversation. So first of all, thank you. Learning is something that I really like to do. This was really, really educational, but also super, super interesting. Thank you for your time. I'm sure a lot of individuals will be super happy to learn from this video. And I'll speak to you soon. Thanks, Nimisha. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Pleasure being here.